Welcome, friends of the Greasy Shop Rag. Today we're going to take a look at Husqvarna 129LK. Customer complaint is that it won't start. Well, the first thing we're going to do is look in the fuel tank, right, and see what the guy's running in here. And there doesn't seem to be any reason for concern. Give it the sniff test and everything looks fine in there. We're going to check for spark next. Look inside the cylinder and see what that looks like. Spark plug looks fine. Inside of the cylinder looks fine. So I've got this tool, I think it's called the spark checker, this yellow thing. I've been testing it. I don't really trust it yet. I haven't used it long enough to trust it. But there's a light on there and it turns green if it detects spark or current in the wire. And this is telling me that there's no spark. Despite the fact that that tool's telling me that, I'm going to test it the old-fashioned way and just lay the plug across the ground and see if it fires. So the spark checker was right. I don't have any spark. Now there's a lot of reasons why you might not have spark, and one of them is the possibility of the kill switch being bad. So we're going to separate the kill switch from the circuit and give it another try. Accessing the kill switch wiring on this trimmer is pretty simple. We just loosen some screws and move the handle up on the shaft a little bit and gain access to the connector. We'll unplug it and we'll do our spark test again. I see this spark boot has got a wear in the top of it. That's got to be a real treat when you set your elbow on there when you're trimming. Spark checker is still red. So we eliminated the kill switch and that didn't make any difference. So what else? I mean, if the gap on the ignition module is not correct, possibly you won't have any spark. If the ground from the ignition module to the engine block is bad, you might not have any spark. If the wire, the terminal that the spark plug attaches to, if that isn't, in the end of the high tension lead, you might not have any spark. Let's see what this guy does. He's just going to pull the cover off the back. There's a lot of screws holding this cover on. Normally, when you pull these screws out, you're going to find that there's some fine thread screws and some coarse screws. And just pay attention to that. See, someone's been in here before because had fine thread screws in the wrong spot. So I'm not sure what's going on here. Why someone would have been in there, or if the factory just screwed up and put the wrong one in there. I don't know. Screwed up with their screws. Because this thing is like not that old. Pretty clean. I would say damn near newish. So we want to separate the engine from the, we're going to call it the plastic clutch housing, the front half of the case. 3 screws, and then you'll be able to pull the motor out. Now the throttle cable is still hooked up, and our wire for the ignition module is still passing through that front housing. Not pictured, for whatever reason, is testing the ground between the ignition module and the engine case. And now we're at the halfway point, right? Everything just goes back together from here. These screws are kind of smallish, fine threaded. You got to tighten down the module so the air gap stays true, but don't get so carried away that you're going to strip something out. We put our gauge in between the flywheel magnet and the ignition module, kind of press the two together, tighten it down. And there I'm just keeping that wire terminal from jamming into the plastic of the ignition module, cutting into it or anything like that. Alright, we're going to have to feed our kill wire through this front case half. Seems like an easy job, but it's actually a little bit awkward. There's a track for the high tension lead to live in there. And then it's just a matter of getting everything to line up and snap back together. Everything looks even, so we're gonna... No, we're not quite there yet. There we go. Once it's flush on both sides, we can put the screws back in. You know, part of that getting everything lined up deal is getting the end of the shaft that's in the tube to line up into the end of the clutch, or the clutch drum. Alright, the last screw goes in. And right here, it kind of looks like we've pinched that wire, doesn't it? Oh, don't get all excited. It's just the way the handle is resting there. It's kind of a nice design that handle can just slide back like that. You can gain access to the wire. It makes diagnosing these things a little easier. Some of them, it could be tricky to separate the kill switch from the circuit. Be careful tightening up these screws. I know showing you doing this with the power driver probably isn't the best thing to do, but you know, I use that driver all day, every day. I got a pretty good feel for what it can do. And stripping out screws in plastic isn't something that happens anymore. We got our starter cover in place. We'll run these screws in. Seems to me I could have edited through some of this. But you can watch me put every screw in.
That was bullshit.
Now the 3 starter screws again are the fine thread ones, so don't get them mixed up. Well, that's all I got for you on the Husqvarna 129LK ignition module swap. Thanks for watching. Later.